On the street, we're all-
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. My name is Joe Beely. I'm the chairperson for this commission. I know that we have some folks who are joining us on Zoom, so I ask that you please make sure that you are muted. If it comes time for testimony or your comments to be heard, we would then ask you to unmute yourself. You'll be recognized by our town planner, Lauren Juicy, and then you'll have your time to state your questions and pose your comments with your name and address, of course. Other than that, please remain muted so that we have a clear recording of the meeting tonight. I would ask everyone, do we want to do a roll call at this time? Yeah, okay.
June Daly. Present. Andre Lou Miller. Here. Diane Joycey. Here. Timothy Zigma.
Here.
Ryan Rogan.
Here.
Sherman Beely.
Here
Andrew Legnani.
is absent.
Steve Biella Jr.
Here.
and Nikki Sambinsky.
I'm here.
Okay, terrific. So we have two of our alternates that are joining us online. I would ask that Steve Biella join us as a seated member for this meeting. And please stand by, Nikki, because we may be needing your help later on, okay?
Okay,
Thank
will do.
All right, great. Thanks a lot. So with that, I'm going to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Thank you very, very much. And so, sorry about this, guys.
Would like to remind the commission, as well as any audience members, to please speak clearly into your microphone. With the last couple of meetings, there's been some discussion that was very difficult to hear. So,
All right.
not very difficult, but
Yeah, we
turn up
have,
the volume of high to listen.
yeah, and we also have to remember to be courteous and not talk over each other or sidebar conversation to hold it down. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to move into the review of the minutes for the last meeting, which was October 20th and November 3rd. Do we have any adjustments or corrections for the October 20th meeting? Just spelling on my last name, is that a big deal? B-A-L-Y. B-A-L-Y. Page 5. All righty, any other adjustments, corrections? Any motions? I'll make a motion to approve the suggested edits. Okay, terrific. Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zigma for the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. November 3rd, 2022. Do we have any corrections or adjustments, misspellings on those minutes? I'll make a motion to approve as presented. Okay, thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Zigma. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Scheduling of public hearings. The first one we have up is a special permit use application of Linda Sukiasian. I'm sorry. It's for an accessory dwelling, unit 5 at Huckleberry Lane. And the suggested date is going to be December 15th. Do we have a motion?
I got the question.
Sure, go, Mr. Lindblom.
It says it must open by the January 21st. And looking at the list all the way down, suggested dates. 15th might be a little heavy. And go to the 21st.
Okay, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to move it to January 21st.
Okay, motion for the 21st of January, 2023. Do we have a second on that for discussion, or I think the 21st is not a Thursday?
I think it's supposed to say the 19th. I was just gonna go.
Okay,
Okay.
19th.
Okay,
So
so,
my motion says 19.
okay, motion for the 19th of January. Second by Ms. Dorsey. Do we have further discussion from that? Then all those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Proposed amendment for George Keach, VMD, to the Berlin zoning regulations to amend section 6B2I, veterinary offices without kennel for the purpose of boarding. This is also suggested for December 15th, however, could be opened up to the 19th of January. It's a pleasure of the commission.
It looks like the items going down here, they're all the same, dates. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll all be on the 19th. The last two are on the suggested on the 9th.
Well, item B and C are actually for the same application, right? So one's a zone change and one's a site plan.
Okay.
Tax
so-
rate.
Tax plan change, excuse me.
May I? We actually did suggest the 15th for the first one because it was an accessory dwelling unit, which are usually, fairly smaller items as compared to big development projects. And then, like you said, the other two were linked, and then, so we just kept going down the list. That's how we came up with suggested dates. Just to give you a little more thought
Okay.
process.
We may have
Because
to,
there is only one meeting in January, because of the first meeting would be the week after Christmas, after the holiday, which is a little difficult to prepare for your schedule. And that gives us a little bit of a crunch at this time of year.
could we, in January, could we do 2 meetings back to back? Or is that gonna be a real push, like the second Thursday and the third Thursday? I mean, instead of having one meeting where we just get really slammed and we're here at midnight, perhaps we want to consider having 2 meetings where we have actual time to think about these applications and to, both with everyone be around.
So the 12th, January 12th, the second Thursday, the 5th is the first Thursday. The 12th is the second.
So we have the 12th and the 19th. How
And
does
the
that sound?
19th is the next meeting, and then usually the 4th Thursday you reserve for your P O C D meeting. That would be the 26th.
Okay.
So then we need to schedule a special meeting for the 12th of January. Can we do that right now? All right, well then I'll make the motion to schedule a special meeting for January 12th, 2022.
A second. Okay. Further discussion on that matter? All those in favor?
aye,
Nikki, you're good with that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay, all right, so moved. So now that we have these 2 meetings in January, do we want to step back to the accessory dwelling and change that? Or do we want to leave that where it is? Just before we move forward, because now we have more options. Or do you want to leave the 12th for catch up to the December meeting?
I think the 2 last items may be a little bit more longer. So if.
So you're talking about item D and E.
Yeah, if B and C are combined. They're the same item, right? So don't change what the. Site plan.
Use.
So I can stay together, the last 2 could go together.
So are you suggesting item A, which we already scheduled for a public hearing?
I would suggest bring that on to the 15th with the,
And we
George.
to the 12th.
Or December 15th.
December 15th.
All right, so you're,
A, B, and C on December 15th, I would just.
You mean 12th for the special meeting?
January?
Because we're taking everything off December 15th.
Oh, trust me, we'll have enough work. I mean, I'm just trying to,
I'm just saying, those first three items, they together were.
So we just added another meeting to the agenda for the 12th, so now we have the 12th and the 19th. So keep A, B, C together and put them on the date of the special meeting on the 12th, and then January 12th. And do D and E, I guess is what you're saying,
Yeah.
on the 19th.
That works.
all right,
So we need to reschedule A.
yeah. So the site plan, the special permit use for Linda, Sue Piazzian for an accessory dwelling on Huckleberry Lane is gonna go to January 12th.
I'll modify motion to go to January 12th,
Okay,
and item
okay, so,
the second.
all right, and so, and who had the second? I think I had, yes, you modify your motion? All right, so all those in favor? Aye. Nikki and Steve, are you?
Sorry. I'm here.
Okay, Steve?
aye,
Okay, thank you. All right, so then moving on to item B and C, even though they're separate, they're set for the same application for George Peach, BDM, EMD. And one is for the proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, the other one is for the special permit site plan amendment. And those would be suggested for the 12th of January as well.
So move.
All right, thank you. We have a second. Second, all right, so Mr. Ziegler had the motion, Mr. Dorsey had the second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Now, special permit site plan application for Linda Giovanna, CCARC Incorporated for charitable institution use for a CCARC day employment site and related site improvements at 1103 Chamberlain Highway. This property is currently the Prince of Peace Lutheran Church on Chamberlain Highway in accordance with Berlin zoning regulations VA 3D and 11L. And the suggested date is for the 19th of January.
So moved.
Motion.
I'll make a motion to schedule for January 19th.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey has a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. Site plan, I'm sorry, special permit site plan application of developer J.R. Glissom, Connecticut, self-storage for self-storage at 2200 Berlin Turnpike. Also suggested date is the 19th of January 2023. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. On to the new business. Site plan amendment of Silver Ridge Owners Associated Incorporated. Co-Imagineers LLC for modifications related to designated common conservation and recreation area. So what do we have with this? Let me see if I get my stuff out.
Have a very short comment to, I can head out now or when you ask me for comments.
Okay, whatever. You have them written already?
Yeah, I wrote them out, they weren't distributed.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we distribute them and we should be able to it out. Okay. Evening. How are you doing today?
Doing well, how about you?
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the commission's ready. Thanks for
I think so.
having us here tonight. I think it may put this a little bit more in perspective if I go over a bit of the background as to what brought us here tonight. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Back in 1997, special permit was issued, application 96-1-SP for GBA LLC to construct the housing at Silver Ridge off of Wilbur-Cross Highway. There was a requirement there for dedication of a conservation easement to the town and acceptance of the dedication before the issuance of any building permits. So because the place was built out, the permits were issued, COs were issued, the association believed that all the conservation easement area had been dedicated by GBA during the course of the build out in accordance with this requirement. So GBA did complete the development, but there were some exceptions to the special permit. In 2014, the commission approved a waiver of walking trails, gazebo, a bridge over a water course, and 6 picnic tables with benches. And then in 2016, the commission eliminated the age-based occupancy restriction that was on the units in the Glen area. So those were the only changes we were aware of. For more than 20 years, the association maintained the landscaped areas without any significant problems until in 2019, some homeowners started raising questions about exactly where the boundaries of the conservation easement areas were and what could the association and other people do in those areas. The approved site plan didn't describe the boundaries in any real detail. And the survey that was prepared for Silver Ridge as a common interest community just showed them as proposed. So I got a question from Mr. Lamontagno over here, who's the president of the association, just saying, so, what are the requirements of the boundaries? So I did some research and got my title searcher involved and discovered that there was only one conservation easement from 1997. And it only covered 3 parcels of land, kind of on the northerly boundary of the site by the Royal Motel, and that was it. The map that was referenced in that conservation easement didn't refer to the easement areas, it actually referred to the property to the east that had been dedicated to the town before development. So the map reference was actually an error. So we ended up with a situation of only a small part of the conservation easements being conveyed to the town, the build out absolutely complete, and nobody really knowing where the boundaries of the easement areas were supposed to be. So the association engaged Harry Cole and Son as surveyors to survey the improvements, the unit boundaries, and the boundaries of the proposed conservation easements to determine the as-built conditions. And the survey showed several things. In the first instance, it showed that the proposed boundaries of the easement diverged in a few areas from the landscaped areas that were actually constructed and maintained by the association for more than 2 decades. In 9 units, the improvements encroached into the common elements. 2 driveways and the other 7 were patios and decks. So the builder actually built them outside the boundaries for the units that were shown on the common interest survey. In the Glen, all the units containing those quad and duplex buildings ended right at the end walls of the end units. So there was no space in the unit for landscaping, utilities, meter boxes, HVAC equipment, or any of those things. So another issue came up. And then it turned out that some of the recreation areas on the improvement plan that were required were pretty much unusable due to their locations and accessibility or conflicts with improvements that were actually built by the GBA during the build out. I think in particular, the pump house comes to mind.
It was, one area was totally landlocked.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, if you would like to comment as well, please, because we need your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Claude Lamontine. I'm the president of the homeowner association. And my home address is 20 Sea Green Drive. One of the area that was designated as recreation area on the site plan that was approved was totally landlocked with homes built on two sides and basically wetland on the other. Effectively making it totally unusable. So when we approached trying to resolve the issue after we staked every property and had the common area surveyed as to where the
Around your dead area, but they're not talking about the houses yet.
I'm sorry, if you're online, please mute yourself as we're getting your conversation. Thank you. Just, can we mute them from here? I'm not sure who that was from, but. All right, sorry, I'm sorry about that,
we
please.
surveyed every aspects of the common areas beyond the lot, the unit themselves. And determined that where there were some finished common element with park, landscaping, trees, and the like, we were able to reconfigure and make sure that there were enough recreation area to satisfy the zoning requirement that is 600 feet per unit. So we had to relocate one of those areas being landlocked, effectively totally unusable, to where there was finished grounds that could be used, for recreation purposes. And in doing so, we were able to delineate all of the conservation area that were supposedly intended by virtue of reference to the lot line, where the woods would start or where the brush would begin. So this is what the new site plan in front of you.
I'll get to that in a minute too.
Right, but that's what we did.
All right, can I, just because I'm trying to follow this clearly through its history. If I remember correctly, and I'll look at Tim, who's probably would know something about it, but he served on the commission before and then he brought back. But if I remember correctly, there was one developer that came in with the initial idea and then something happened, things were stalled out. In other words, like there were parts of that development that weren't built, or was this whole thing built up all at once?
At the very least, it was built in phases,
Okay,
but I don't know if there was ever a different developer to start with. I know Mr. Klepacki was the developer I was aware of
Yeah.
that was involved in the project.
Yeah, there was a change midway through to add 11 units, but other than
Okay.
that, I think that Klepacki was.
all right, so that's probably what I'm thinking of, is I know that there was a change in.
But
So-
it evolved over a period of about 20 years, from the first unit being built in 1997, the last unit was actually finished in 2002. So it took a while to get the full build out. And as it progressed, more portions of the common areas were being developed along with its park-like settings, along the roadways, all the way up to the top of Sea Green, which was the last piece to be built. So what the new site plan, we're not building anything. We're just showing you what the site plan should have reflected all along.
Mhm.
And in order to do so, we had to hire an architect, we had to stake the property, we had to measure everything. We worked with Maureen, we worked with Jim Forble for the last 3 years, trying to do that. To develop something that accurately reflects what we have. And the purpose is hopefully to try to deliver to the town on the easement that they never got, that the developer paid to do. And to correct anything else that we came across along the way, including the relocation of the designated recreation area that we use. This plan shows in different colors the various elements of the common elements. The orange is the conservation, the blue is the recreation. The green is basically a nondescript, restricted common area, some of it is adjacent to backyards, it's on the edge of the road, beyond the actual roadway, that sort of thing. So it's an accurate reflection, and then there's an underlying survey that has all the meets and bounds and measurement that will allow us to deliver on the easement that everybody would like to have. Okay,
Yeah, so I'll kind of go through there. So, yeah, the site plan that's amended does depict the conservation easement area boundaries as built. Based on landscaping conditions, it changes the boundaries of the units to put the improvements within them like they were supposed to be in the first place. So there's some orange wedges or triangles or those kinds of things you'll see. We extended the boundaries of the end units of the Glen to include the utilities and landscaping, things that need to be part of the units there. And it, as Mr. Lamontagne mentioned, it relocates some of the recreational areas to a usable location. So they do comply, all the amendments do comply with the zoning regulations. Even with the changes, the amount of recreation area under AD 3A and B increased from 90,400 square feet to 100,647 square feet for a net increase. The conservation easement area ends up at about 640,000 square feet in round numbers. But we really couldn't quantify it in the first instance because in the site plan, it was all shown as typical with no boundaries and it wasn't measured as approved. There's no minimum amount of conservation easement area required under section 8B6. It just gives the commission the discretion to require it in the MR2 district. The commission did decide to require it. It was depicted as typical, and we're just trying to pin this down to actual boundaries based on what got built. But even if it shifts a bit, it's not as though we can't meet a minimum because there is no minimum. The other compliance requirements are still shown in the table of the various dwelling counts and the other things. So it does comply with the zoning regulations. We request, like I said, the application of waiver of the map requirements because really there's nothing about parking, circulation, drainage, building relationships, landscaping, anything else that's changed or will change. It's just the existing site conditions. And really all that stuff that would have been on those other maps isn't necessary. And it won't prevent the commission from determining compliance with the regulations. So we ask for approval of the site plan as amended and that the boundaries of the conservation easement areas as shown in the survey be sufficient for the conveyance of the easement to the town. We already, I think the amount that the association spent so far in surveying is about $35,000. And just getting a running description for all those areas would add another $5,000. We believe the map will be adequate for the conveyance to the town. So we will gladly work with staff and corporation council on the conveyance. And ultimately, if the site plan is amended, is approved, the commission also, the association will approve an amendment to the declaration to make the new map, the official survey of Silver Ridge as a common interest community, and will adjust the boundaries between the units and the common elements to clear up the encroachments. So that's where we are and how we ended up here. It really wasn't the association's doing, it's what got handed to them by the developer. And really, we're just trying to fix this.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, Maureen, is there any, you want to go through your comments on this?
So my comments were substantially just to do, help everyone understand that this is the 1997 original approval, and built out over that course of that almost 20-year period before the houses along seated at Seagreen at the top were built out completely and just finished fairly recently. So over the years, lawn areas, the landscapers maybe, mowed a little more where it had been grassy or whatever. Staff, being myself and Jim Horrible, have gone out there. He was the wetlands agent as well as engineering, have gone out there on numerous occasions and walked the sites. We walked around the perimeter of pretty much the entire site, not behind the houses, closest to the west, that goes up a very steep, east rather, this lower extremity on the map, that's a very steep cliff up. And no, we didn't climb up it, but that conservation area, I don't believe it's changing at all and was established and was monitored actually at the time they were building out Bee Green and Rosewood. I recall Helen and I going out and monitoring the extent of that area. I think the issues were initially found in this central area, seemed to be the area that was most up for discrepancies between the original plans, this area over here at the end of Sea Green, where it had originally been designated as conservation, but the unit at the end encroached over. I believe there was an amendment, they came before the commission, I think there's a discussion item regarding them moving their driveway and encroaching into that area. If it wasn't handled by the commission at that time, it was handled by the planner at that time. That was already kind of established with a little retaining wall over there. So that is substantially grassed, and even being out there, found that many of the residents walk through that area, use it for a place to go with their dogs and walk, and it's active use somewhat, you know, which I know the commission wants to promote people getting outside. These areas over here, so what happened during the course of permitting is in that these are individual single-family units through much of the development, as the plot plans or the permit plans came in for each one, they came in on their own plan for just that unit, and as it related to the extent of their exclusive use area. So it looks like a lot, you know, as far as how its distance is, whatever. When they had found they had some discrepancies, and some of that was with taking down trees that were maybe needed to be taken down in common areas and things like that. They found that those, if you put those next to each other, they didn't all necessarily coincide and create a plan that didn't overlap. So they've taken the effort as a homeowners association to get the entire development surveyed. And that's where they found where people went outside their exclusive use area per their deed. And some of that included sunrooms, landscaping, whatever. And in particular, I'll just pick on this one because it's obvious, the one on the screen. You can see this house right here. They built out across what was their line. So one of the reasons for the plan is to rectify that. So this pink area, hash marked area, will now become part of their exclusive unit area, and the green line of common area adjusted around it. As I said, we did walk. I will zoom in on that so you can maybe make it a little easier to see what we're talking about. That happened in several locations. We did walk the area, check for where there was growth, where there is open space or conservation area, that where wildlife isn't, what is actually landscaped and used as yards and or landscaping, and where there seem to be paths that people traverse. And as a staff, Jim and I going through the plan fairly next a number of times, by no exception to what they come up with. And really think it's a great idea to get the final as-built in here established as a unified plan. You may have noticed on some of the developments that have come in more recently, we've started to put on our staff report that when they look to close out before the final bond is released, we get a final unified plan, at least per phase, so that we can see how houses orient to each other. Typically, depending on which development, but for instance, houses must be, or structures must be a minimum of, say, 35 feet apart or 20 feet apart. If you have a different building plan for each individual building, you have to pull both sides and the one behind to make sure that nobody put on an addition that encroaches into that area. So the one unified plan is extremely helpful, moving through time for staff. I do want to just make one clarification for anyone who might be interested or listening. You have the moratorium on multifamily developments. This is not for new units. This is a rectifying an existing plan. There's no development application here, and therefore it's perfectly fine to have it at this hearing, or at this meeting rather, and as a site plan amendment. So I just wanted to put that on the record in case anybody asks.
So basically, we had a plan, then there was a couple of boo-boos in the plan that was discovered. And now this is an adjustment to the plan. However, as far as like the conservation area, the town is satisfied that we're receiving equal conservation area as was so requested with the original plan. It's just the lines defining those areas have to be adjusted. All right, so I think that's.
The designations of the common elements are adjusted and modified to match up what actually got built out, or additions that were put on units. I would suggest that now that it's done, and like I mentioned about the area that got mowed when it wasn't supposed to be, that the commission condition it that conservation markers be installed to the satisfaction of staff. That's typically at angle points, as well as there's a minimum distance between the markers so that people know they're there. And that he'd be able to work with staff to figure out where those markers need to go. That the final plan and with the easement documents, of course, it would have to be filed on the land records regardless, but that it get filed on the land records. And that I just want to mention that the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission modified their 1996 application number 9610W on August 22nd of this year, or August 2nd of this year. To reflect the as-built conditions, and they have made that approval. Conservation Commission asked that not lose conservation area, and that they try to maintain corridors for any wildlife coming through. There are open space areas, town-owned lands adjacent, and we do have woodlands and wildlife in the area.
Any other questions? Yeah, Tim?
That's not known this development very good. Walk many times. This is I see as an improvement that was because the state made this is an improvement. But we did ask for, I was in the beginning, some recreational areas with picnic tables, whatever. And I don't know where that would be placed now. But I think that type of thing still should be in this plan. And conservation markers were supposed to be placed. If they were placed, they probably would be in the wrong spots, whatever. So I do highly recommend that all conservation markers be placed in place, and that footage between markers besides the angle points be followed. Then every owner of every home there will know exactly where that conservation is. It's good for the homeowners and the conservation. They don't mow their lawn further like you did. But the improvement of the development with this plan, I think, they took into consideration all the problems little recreational, items and the, placement of the markers.
Anyone else? Right, yes,
Diane. Maureen, are you comfortable with the requested waiver?
Oh, absolutely. I think so the bonding has all been released on the project. And that wouldn't have been done if the site improvements for infrastructure was not done properly. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, the bond had been released on the property. I meant to do that.
If there's no other further questions or comments, Steve or Nikki online, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I got nothing right now. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay,
Not at this time.
I would just like to say, appreciate the homeowners and the association. That corrected this
yeah,
mistake.
that's a
Thank
huge
you very
mistake.
much for doing that. It's probably a mistake should have been what, 10 years, 20 years ago, but
Yeah,
thank
but
you
here we
for
are.
being honest and doing it.
Okay, I'll suggest that, I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'll suggest that, the installation of recreational amenities such as, picnic tables and some other things be with staffs.
Yeah, or
Coordination with
see
staff.
what the association.
And the
Because they know it fits into that neighborhood too.
And just wanted to provide.
All right.
Sometimes with exercise benches or like that.
so I will make the motion to approve the site plan amendment with staff comment, including, the most recent one involving, benches and stuff like that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Rogan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Zigma. Then further discussion? All those,
Just clarification on the motion.
okay,
So the motion is going to be conservation markers installed to the approval of staff plus the recreational amenities to staff's approval and the waiver is, the requested waiver is included.
And there's one other that noted is that all the documents, the final plan be, on the land records and as the applicant stated with staff and corporation council's approval of the easement documents.
Yes, that is correct.
that's what you meant. Okay, and so did the second. Okay.
So
So
the second.
Yes.
Tim, so any other comments and further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed, so moved. Okay.
And we'll remind that you have CBL seated for
Yes.
us right now.
Yeah.
During the public hearing,
Yeah.
you can make comments and ask questions.
Yeah.
The voting is limited to those.
Yeah. Nikki, just to reiterate, Steve is seated for the meeting. You are entitled to the questions as the alternate, but the vote cannot be held with you.
I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Okay, our business, we have a site plan application for the H2O Farm Berlin LLC for the construction of 2 greenhouses at 2107 Kenmore Highway. This is a public hearing that's actually scheduled for the 1st of December, 2022. I don't think there's any testimony that we're hearing tonight about this application. Is that correct, Murray? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're just moving it right along.
H2O, public hearing has been scheduled for December 1st.
Okay, so moving on into the public hearings, we have a call for the public hearing. Yeah, we do. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Town of Berlin. Town of Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission notice of public hearing. The Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public hearings at its regular meeting on Thursday, November 17th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Town Council Chambers, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Interested parties may join the meeting and participate in the public hearing in person or remotely as provided below. A, special permit / site plan application of, and I apologize if I get this wrong, Sudhakar Nagar Kalikar AIUA NSN Architect LLC for interior renovation of existing unoccupied 1,777 square foot space for a takeout facility at 225 Berlin Turnpike. And B, special permit / site plan application amendment applications of Peter Lapointe, Colvest / Kennington LLC for the subdivision of the existing retail building to create 2 commercial spaces in a drive-through lane at 1041-1055 Farmington Avenue. The applications and related meeting materials are available at the Planning and Zoning Department, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kennington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Dated this first day of November 2022, Berlin, Connecticut. Brian Rogan, Secretary, Planning and Zoning Commission, to Britton Carroll, legal notices / classified advertising dates of publication. Saturday, November 5th, 2022, and Monday, November 14th, 2022.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Okay, moving into the public hearing for first up is the applications for 550 to 554 Berlin Turnpike Associations LLC. 502 Berlin Turnpike map 10-2, block 83, lot 13B, 522 Berlin Turnpike map 10-2, block 83, lot 13, 554 Berlin Turnpike map 10-2, block 83, lot 14. This was combined public hearings. They were opened on October 6th, November 3rd, and it's actually being continued to 12/1/2022. All right, so there is going to be no testimony heard at this meeting regarding that. We just have to sort of move it on through one public hearing to continue on. So going down to item 2 or item B. Special permit site plan application Quantum of Berlin 2 LLC for the proposed indoor sports complex and related site improvements at 04 Rod Road, MBL 15-1-90-6-2 in the PI zone, a PI2 zone. This was also opened October 20th, continued to 12/1/2022. No testimony will be heard today. Item C, re-subdivision of Thomas Kokomo Brothers for lots at 44 Randacres Lane, MBL 2-3-3-5 in the R15 zone. The property is owned by Kokomo 2 LLC. This is postponed from 10/20/22, 11/3/2022. Do we have anyone here for this item today?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh.
The applicant.
The applicant. The
Just
applicant.
residents.
So I am not seeing the applicant in the room. And please remind me, but I believe I submitted my draft comments previously on this. And I've been working with the applicant and their attorney with regard to one of the provisions of the regulations of building square. I didn't find that I have a new email that they wanted to postpone any further, but I also don't find them being in the room or online. So I would
deny without, I mean, do we need to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to deny without prejudice.
I think
Come
we
back.
have to hold the
Okay.
public hearing for after that.
Okay, we do have a
You
motion.
want to give them time to find out if they're on the way or something, or do they, I don't know.
Well,
It's already
It's odd.
well, we have a motion on the floor. Well, we have a motion to deny without prejudice. In other words, she has been in touch with the applicant. There was a question regarding the building layout area of the 2 lots or whatever, and there was a question about that, and you have not heard back from the applicant.
Well, we've been working with them with regard to it. There've been emails back and forth with regard to it, which is what's making me, because I had asked.
No, I'm just curious, because I think Maureen said we have to open it before Tim can make this motion. Or is it already open? Did you say we have to open it before Tim can make this motion, or do we just Tim make this motion?
Or we can,
Thank you.
Legal.
we open it, well, because it's, well,
Yeah.
it's already on. how do we want to make sure we get it right. So. We opened it, we had
It only because I like was emailing them yesterday, so I'm surprised they're not here. That's my concern of perhaps dropping. Because
I'll resend my motion right now and, for this item and move it to, last item, public hearing.
all right, just in case he's on his way or something.
Casey's on his way and then we'll.
All right, so we won't decide anything on that except we'll move it. Okay, so all those in favor of readjusting it to the bottom? I think you need a second. I'll second. Okay, thank you. Further discussion on that? All right, and all those in favor of moving it to the bottom of the public hearings? Aye.
All right,
Those opposed, so moved. All right, so we'll come back to that. Moving on, site permit, no, sorry, special permit, site plan application of Suhakar Nagar Dio Nakar AIA NSN Architect LLC for the interior renovations of an existing unoccupied 1,777 square foot space for a takeout food facility. No exterior renovations at block 12-6, lot 7791, 225 Golden Turnpike. Do we have anyone here? I think we do. Okay, terrific, thank you. And please, I will have you use the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
I certainly will.
All right, whenever you're ready. Okay.
Small coffee brown going to water.
Yeah, we can see. Thank you.
To start with, my name is Sudhakar Nagar Devlikar. I'm a registered architect in state of Connecticut. I have a firm, NSN Architect LLC in Holland, Connecticut.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't handle your name.
No, I think you both of you did a wonderful job.
I tried. Okay. All right, well, welcome.
Most people see such a long name and they don't even want to try. We're here because we have to get site plan approval and a special permit. It's an interior renovation about under 1,800 square feet. For a Indian takeout food facility. It's kind of very similar type, you might say, like Subway, where there's no table service or anything. It just where you buy the food, you and take it home for consumption. I know we received a number of comments from the building department, from the fire marshal, from the water control. They all seem to be concerned about a small item as far as I'm concerned. Fire marshal is concerned about the hood. Health department is concerned about the hood and the equipment. And building office just want to set up plan for permit. Police department don't have any comment. Economic development says it's a good idea to renovate the existing space. Now, we're fully aware that we have to submit the plan to the health department. But we just want to get this first one approved so that we can move to the next stage of doing the detailed plans of the wood design and all the equipment, all the kitchen equipment. So, and like we said, that there are no exterior renovation of this space. Everything is just interior. About a 300 to 400 square feet up front for the public. And the rest is for the service and the kitchen area.
If you
Okay,
have any question, I would like to answer it.
all right. Commission, do we have any questions? At this point? Maureen, do you have anything that you want to add about this application?
No, this is, well, just that it's a, by definition in the zoning regulations, it's a fast food use, which falls under the criteria for being a special permit use. So therefore, special permit use is required. Looking at the numbers for parking as we've gone along from previous approvals, I checked on the parking. You'll recall that we had a modification earlier this year to change fast food parking to 1 per 125 square feet from 1 per 75, so that makes parking even more able to fit in this parking lot, but there seems to be more than enough excess parking, and it's really a use fit out for fast food. No drive-throughs, no exterior modifications or renovations. The comments made by other departments are typical build-out comments that are required through the permitting process anyway. And health district, for example, isn't satisfied, they won't end up with their permit ultimately and approved license. And as is typical for any application, signage requires building permits as well, and that'll come through the zoning office as for permitting.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, hold on, I'm hearing, so I just want to, can anyone here for the public who wishes to address the, yes, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, sorry,
Sorry, public hearings.
okay.
Hello, Chris Edge, 240 Kensington Road. Economic Development Commission discussed this Monday evening. We think it's a great use for vacant space. One, they're going to be bringing more food to town. Two, it's going to be an investment in the property. So they both are very good. And I know the property recently has changed hands to a new ownership group. I think it's great that they've only owned the property less than 6 months and already are bringing in new tenants. So I think it's a really good sign, and economic development's in full support.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edge. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to address the commission regarding this application? Now would be the time to do so. I don't know that we have anyone online that wishes to comment. Okay, hearing none. Okay, commissioners, any questions? No. Obviously, it seems like all the important stuff regarding, the health permit and, the safety of the hood and stuff like that. I mean, that's are all things that they have to take into consideration. But as far as, you don't have any, drive-through windows, or nothing else that we have to concern ourselves with. All right, it seems pretty clear and cut, but we are in public hearing, so make a motion to close the public hearing. All right, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Dorsey to close the public hearing. Do we have a second? Second. All right, thank you, Ms. Miller. And further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, great. So we're closing the public hearing on that one. Moving on to special permit site plan. Thank you and welcome. Special permit site plan amendment applications of Peter LaPointe, Colvest Kensington LLC for the subdivision of the existing retail building to create 2 commercial spaces and a drive-through lane at 1041 to 1055 Farmington Avenue. Hello, how are you today?
Good evening.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Give us a second. Otherwise we'll go on to
Yes.
Okay.
In the plan set, but not colored.
Okay. Do I have it colored or not?
Yeah.
I do have them, but is that a separate document?
That's one.
Um, Landscape, L1.
All set?
We're looking at L1, not C2.
Okay.
We have, the L1 site plan on the screen that matches this board, but it's also,
It says L1 at the bottom.
says that's one.
The file was labeled L1.
Okay. Hi, how you doing?
Doing great, thank you. For the record, my name is Peter Alter. I'm a lawyer, practice law in Glastonbury at the firm of Alter and Pearson. Here tonight representing the applicant, Coldwell Kensington, with respect to this application. In addition to comments from me, you will also hear from our project engineer, our traffic consultant, and a Coldwell representative in support of and to provide information for our application. As a matter of housekeeping, I just want to reflect for the record that we've already provided to Maureen's office evidence of the mailing required for tonight's application, as well as evidence of the posting of a sign and publication. All is required and has already been made a part of the file prior to tonight's hearing. The application that we filed seeks two things. One is a site plan approval for the redevelopment and reuse of the former Blockbuster Painter's Edge building that is opposite the CVS pharmacy that has been in place for a number of years. Those of you who are familiar with this particular site know that this building has been vacant for approximately 5 years. During this vacancy period, Coldwell has been approached by a number of potential tenants, but in each instance, Coldwell did not feel that the particular tenant seeking space was appropriate for this development, did not bring a high enough quality or economic viability to the property. So it's deferred its development until it found what we think is a very suitable tenant for about 2,400 square feet of the space, leaving about 1,600 to be filled after the building is completely redeveloped, as you see on the architectural plans. Part of the new tenancy is to create a drive-through facility to service the new coffee business that will be established on the Farmington Avenue side of the property. That drive-through facility is shown on the plan, including the small addition of the drive-through window that will service the customers as they pass through to pick up their orders. That's the only change to the footprint on the building, and as you'll see when we review the architecture, it's been made as an integral part of the overall design of the redeveloped building. It is that drive-through service that requires a special permit in accordance with your regulations. We believe that the evidence you'll hear tonight from our various experts will demonstrate that we meet all of the site plan and special permit criteria spelled out in your regulations with respect to the redevelopment of this property as we propose. Obviously, if any commissioners feel that there is some particular element of those considerations that you wish us to address in greater detail, we will certainly do that during a public hearing. But we do want to state that we believe the plan before you satisfies all of your considerations in that regard. Plan is completely conforming to your zoning regulations for the zone, except that under your current regulations, a property in this zone is required to have 2 acres. We do not, but we never did. This is a pre-existing lot that has about 1.34 acres available as a single parcel, and that is what we propose to develop. The parking that you see again meets your regulation for the proposed uses that we have. Frankly, the recent change in regulation from 75 square feet to 125 square feet certainly made a lot of sense and is an excellent change that allows us to create appropriate parking for the proposed use as well as the CVS use. You'll notice on the plan, and Bart will describe in a little more detail, the fact that we have shown in the crosshatched area in the southeastern corner of the property an additional 7 parking spaces that can be built but are not proposed to be built. We don't believe that we will ever have a need for those parking spaces given the proposed use and the existing use on the property. But we did want to show that we have the opportunity to create more spaces if that ever became necessary. Within the Commercial Core Design District 2, which is the zone in which we're in, as I indicated, we meet all of the appropriate zoning regulations that would apply to this site, but for the overall area of development. There are no wetlands that are implicated by our proposal. The site is serviced by public water and public sewer. We have had the opportunity to review all of the staff comments that were provided to us before tonight's hearing. There were several comments from various town staff members, all of which have been responded to by Paul Mr. LaPointe, indicating affirmatively that each of the comments will be satisfied as part of a final plan. So we have no objection to any of the comments that were made. Inland wetlands have requested a particular facility to be used in all existing and new catch basins. Conservation Commission member recalled that there was a buffer planting requirement along the volunteer park. And as you see on the plan, we have indicated a new line of planted trees to replace those that will be lost or have been lost. The usual building official comment is the code compliant drawings. We certainly understand that. Economic development, I'll refer to their letter in a moment. Fire marshal had no comments. Board of Police Commissioners, no comments. Police chief had no comments, and had the opportunity to receive the traffic report, which you'll hear about in a moment, and had no comments with respect to that traffic report. As part of the materials, Mr. LaPointe did appear before the Economic Development Commission in October of this year, and there was a letter addressed to Maureen at the Economic Development Commission special meeting in October of 2022. Commission had a presentation from Peter LaPointe of the Colvest Group about their application for 10.1 Farmington Avenue, the former location of Blockbuster and a paint store. He gave a nice overview of the plans for Starbucks to take approximately 60% of the building, with the remainder to be vacant and for lease. The commission was pleased with the plan, as it will take a tired and vacant building and give it life again. They were somewhat concerned about the other coffee shops in town, but they were so pleased that Starbucks has decided to come to Berlin. Motion was made to support the Starbucks at 1040 North Arlington Avenue by Commissioner Sisti, seconded by Commissioner Ostrom, and the motion passed unanimously 5-0. Lori, do you have a copy of that? That's part of the record?
It was distributed, with the staff comments.
Thank you.
That is in your package.
So that we would ask that that be a part of the record as well. With that, I'm going to ask our project engineer to come up and walk you through his work on the plan. You'll then hear from our traffic consultant and then hear from Mr. LaPointe regarding the improvements to the building.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. For the record, Bart Bove, professional engineer with the firm of H. Cole Company over in Planceville, Connecticut, and we're in town. And I know the site very well, as my original company was involved with the site development plan for this with CBS. And at the time, we were proposing a bank for that, the second building to the east. That bank included a drive-through that was never constructed. But the building is situated in such a way that a drive-through is allowed to pass through. This site has three curb cuts, two along Farmington Avenue, the primary driveway, and then a secondary entrance just to the south of the CVS entrance, and then a curb cut on Morton Pass. Our proposal is to eliminate the original curb cut and construct a new curb cut roughly 75 feet to the east of the original driveway, which would be in this location. This is done so we can extend the queuing lane for the drive-through. So we now have stacking for 14 vehicles, which is recommended by state DOT in that area. The CVS is basically going to be unchanged in its location and its parking. We are showing a potential for 75 parking spaces to be constructed, but only 68 be constructed. We're showing 7 spaces out in this area just outside the flood hazard area, which we're asking to be deferred in the event that the second unit within the east of the building and just above the Starbucks is about 1,600 square feet. In case that is ever fast food, that'll provide additional parking, the necessary parking to provide necessary parking. But right now, the 68 spaces shown are sufficient for retail use within that area. And in such time that that is ever needed, or if it is even fast food, we would then go ahead and obtain the necessary permits. That number one is within the flood hazard zone or required from the Wetlands Commission to do it. But I talked to Jim Warble on this, and he is comfortable with the way we've depicted it and not needing to go to the Wetlands Commission for this. The drainage system is essentially the same as we had originally. Maybe Maureen, you could pop up the there we go. You can see where the drive-through comes through, but there's 2 new catch bases located in this location and a catch basin located. There we go. A catch basin located here and a catch basin located in this location. That's going to tie into an existing drainage system that runs down through the whole site and discharges out through the site. That was part of the original development plan, and those extensions, those catch basins are natural extensions to that system. I've talked to the town engineer on this system, and he's quite comfortable that we're really not changing the impervious coverage based on the original driveway. The original driveway came out in this location with the driveway in this location, and to get the extended driveway, we were forced to move that curb cut over. We are extending the sidewalk across to meet the new driveway, and this time this property in this area, which is also owned by Colbert Kensington, is developed. Then there'll be a comprehensive development plan that'll incorporate all the drainage and all the improvements there. Again, I met with Mike and Jim at one time this past month, and they were very comfortable with that. For those of you who don't know the history of the site and this whole area, these are all old clay pits. So there's very little to no impervious infiltration potential in these areas. And we kind of designed this original system based on that knowledge. We know when we develop this piece to the northeast, we're going to have to then kind of deal with the the stormwater storage, there is a large pipe that discharges across Porter's Pass, the pond down through ponds, down through, the bank and the Dunkin' Donuts down in that area. We're gonna have to deal with the pinch there, but again, Mike was very comfortable. The only thing we promised was down in this location, we would put some kind of hydrodynamic structure that would help with the water quality from the site that we don't get at the present time. That and those media baskets that Peter discussed that were required by Jim Horrible and the Wells Commission. It should be sufficient for the engineering department to improve water quality within or coming off that site that doesn't happen at the present time. Drive-through, as I mentioned, is 14 vehicles. We have existing very mature shrubbery and landscaping plantings that are in that area along Park Avenue. We are not touching that. That'll help screen that drive-through pickup window. There is some vegetation, a couple burning bush rows that are located in those areas. Because those are kind of invasive species, we are removing those. But we are planting a row of 38 arborvitae in this location to help screen the cars queued up primarily within the area. And then we're also providing a row of arborvitae there to help screen the headlights from cars coming through the turn and making that turn so they don't shine across the roadway. So we're trying to do our best to screen vehicles as much as we can and headlights with those areas. The pickup window was there, the order window will be right there again, we'll be with all that screening and such. And we feel that the impacts in the neighborhood would be very minimal. Tim, if you remember, that was originally maybe in town for inland time. Remembers that area of Volunteer Park was an old Northeast Utilities substation. It was quite ugly. It was about time we developed this site that that was removed and Volunteer Park was built. So they've got existing vegetation along that side. And the removal of the burning bush and the replacement with the arborvitae there, we think will provide necessary screening. You honestly won't see that building coming from the south side of the well hidden. We're proposing 6 to 8 foot arborvitae in those areas there, so we're not looking for a sort of home variety depot for the regular nursery variety type. The parking is going to remain the same. The curb cuts on Farm Town will remain the same. We are providing one median island to be constructed that will allow cars to then make a decision to make that turn into the driveway or come back in with 4 new spaces located in that area. We're also providing 13 spaces within that area that will provide the necessary parking to meet the requirements. As I mentioned, Colvest Kensington owns this piece of property. There is a present easement along that area. We plan on extending that easement. So they've got the right to park there. Once these 2 sites are done, there'll probably be some uniformity between the 2 sites. Those sites will kind of blend together, and it will make a very attractive presentation along Porter's Pass and Farmington Avenue. If you remember, we were also looking at providing some kind of activity down through the south here. That's not part of this plan, but we still have maintained that availability. So when this site is developed, or still owns this piece of property, there is the potential to provide some kind of backdoor traffic, so we don't even have to go up the avenue to move through those building areas. There are improvements to the exterior. We've got some architectural plans to show you on that. Again, water and sewer is already both buildings. There shouldn't be really any impact on Farmington Avenue at all. Obviously, the state DOT will get their crack at this plan because it is a site improvement off the highway, but we don't see any work related to the work along this area. We are proposing that this curb cut be installed first, and then construction traffic can use this area, and people can then use this area to come on to CVS. So it should be interference with the construction of those 13 spaces. There'll be sufficient parking for the CVS, and then this area in here can be used for the renovation of that area and also the construction of that driveway. There should be any interference with traffic and the construction activities. So with that, as I put the board, we're going to go over the traffic and we'll do a little discussion on traffic.
Thank you.
We have a plan, you want me to show or leave this one up?
This one's fine. Good evening, my name is Gleb Mahmood. I'm a traffic engineer with F.A. Haskett and Associates. I've been with the firm for 4 years now. Prior to that, I worked with the Highway Design Department of the Connecticut Department of Transportation for 2 years. Our office prepared a report dated October 12th, 2022, that was submitted in support of this application. I'm filling in for Scott Haskett, who signed the report, however, is unavailable to present tonight. We were asked to review the existing roadway conditions and to determine the potential impact of the traffic associated with the proposed redevelopment of the existing 4,059 square foot retail building as 2,409 square feet coffee shop with a drive-through and 1,650 square feet of either retail or restaurant use. Site is located at 1041 and 1055 Farmington Avenue, in the southeast corner of the intersection of Farmington Avenue and Porter's Pass. The Connecticut DOT maintains a traffic volume count program on all state highways and some local roadways. Included in the database are counts on Farmington Avenue, southeast of Main Street, and on Porter's Pass, east of Fairview Drive, conducted during 2021. In addition to the conduct counts, our office arranged for the conduct of manual turning movement counts at the intersection of Farmington Avenue and Porter's Pass during October 2022. During the morning and afternoon commuter peak hours, and during the Saturday midday peak shopping hours. Traffic volumes are balanced between intersections, holding the highest observed volumes. The conversation with Connecticut DOT staff indicates that an adjustment for COVID is not necessary. Review of conduct counts indicates that traffic volumes in the area have remained steady between 2006 and 2015. Therefore, we have not applied a growth rate to the observed volumes. To determine the trip generation for the existing and proposed site, Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE, trip generation report was consulted. Trip generation presents estimates for many land uses based on counts conducted at existing facilities throughout the country. Trip generation is calculated based on the square footage for each building for the adjacent street traffic volume coffee shop. Trip generation was calculated for each land use for each independent variable. The highest trip generation observed when each use was used, and the total site generation is the sum of the individual uses. Overall, we found the proposed site results in an increase of 261 trips during the morning peak hour, 124 trips during the afternoon peak hour, 274 trips during the Saturday peak hour. It is important to note that up to 50% of traffic to a coffee shop or fast food restaurant is considered pass-by traffic, which is defined as traffic already on the local roadway network that takes advantage of the use as it passes by on a trip to another destination. Pass-by is observed on the site driveway that does not add to the traffic volume on local roadways. In order to be conservative, we have not taken any credit for pass-by traffic. For the purpose of analysis, we have assumed a directional distribution 40% to and from the north on Route 372, 30% to and from the south on Route 372, and 30% to and from the east on Porter's Pass. Capacity analysis for both the background and combined traffic conditions were conducted for the intersection of Route 372 with Porter's Pass and Burnham Street, as well as the site driveways. An analysis was completed using the intersection capacity analysis program called Synchro. Analysis indicates that the levels of service for the intersection of 372 with Porter's Pass and Burnham Street remains the same during all peak hours with introduction of diverted traffic. The analysis indicates that queues will occasionally extend to and past the northerly site drive and seldomly to the southerly drive to Route 372. On these occasions, vehicles entering and or exiting the site driveway will need to wait for the queue to clear before proceeding. Observations in the field with current traffic volumes indicates that the queue blocked the driveway infrequently during the peak hours. The blockage was short-lived, and there was enough gaps in the Farmington Avenue traffic flow to allow site traffic to exit. For the purposes of our report, the two side driveways to Route 372 were analyzed as one driveway. Analysis indicates that the level of service for Route 372 remains at an A under both background and combined conditions during all peak hours. And the highest expected delay increase is 23 seconds. The proposed side driveway to Porter's Pass was also analyzed, and we found that the level of service for Porter's Pass at this intersection would be a level of service A during all peak hours under both conditions. The maximum expected delay increase of the site drive is less than 1 second. 95% cues from the signal should not extend to the site driveway. The intersection site distance was reviewed. Observations at the existing site driveways indicate that the available intersection site distance at each location are in excess of 500 feet in each direction. Observations were made for the proposed site driveway on the Porter's Pass as well, and those are also in excess of 500 feet in each direction. The available site distances meet the current CONDOT requirement for an approach speed of 45 miles per hour. The two roadways are currently posted at 35 miles an hour. Based on this information, it is my professional opinion that the existing roadway network has enough excess capacity to accommodate the anticipated traffic for the proposed development. Side driveway locations have been predetermined and are properly designed to accommodate the anticipated traffic volumes. Thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
At Peter LaPointe, the Colvest Group, we have offices at 1259 East Columbus and Springfield. We are the property owner. We built this building back in 1998 as a Blockbuster Video with a 4,000 square foot masonry structure. And it's held up extremely well, but it still looks very much like a Blockbuster Video. What we're trying to do is change the look. And what we're proposing to do is use hardy plank siding and AZAC trim as a band around the top third of the building on all four sides. And using that same material, create a sort of a faux colonnade in front of new storefront entries. We are proposing all new glass and mullions and two double door entries into the two tenant spaces. Starbucks would be obviously to the left, and then the smaller 1,600 square foot vacant space would be to the right. The colonnade at each one of those entries, and it's replicated again at the drive-through, are higher than the existing parapet of the building. So what we're trying to do is change that parapet line and give the building some height that it does not have now. It's a box, and we're trying to make it not look like a box. That same hardy plank accent feature is added on the back and side walls as accent pieces, and they give us an opportunity to add sconces as accent lighting that would shine both up and down and take advantage of the clapboarding or the ridges in the clapboarding to create shadow lines. The sign band on the building would be right on the hardy plank siding above each entry. Above the drive-through, Starbucks traditionally has its logo. And we're showing one additional Starbucks wall sign facing Porter's Pass. The building has water, sewer, and all of the utilities get served by natural gas. We would be gutting and renovating the inside of that building. And subdividing it into 2 tenant spaces and then doing the fit out for Starbucks to their specifications. If you have any questions,
We have a couple of questions, so, we'll go Tim and then we'll go to, Commissioner Bill.
Yes, I was on a commission when this came in first time. And this is a big improvement to what you got there right now with that rock. But with that said, this was supposed to be cohesive development with CVS. Okay, there was a promise by COVID at that time to build the roof line of this building the same as the hip roof on CVS, to make a cohesive building. That was never done, and we got a box. I would love to see that this building is improved. But I still think that the concept of making a consistent development with that roof line would be something that would improve the project. You're trying to improve it by raising the height of the event. And that does improve it, but without the roof line being the same, we still get the flat roof look and the mechanicals up on the roof, stuff like that may be there. Now looking at I don't know if I can bring it up now, the pattern of the drive-through. I think Starbucks is good addition. I'm glad that you added 4 more queue of cars for queue. But it was brought up that it doesn't have the 2 acres that is required in our zoning. And it's a existing thing right now, so it was approved this way before. I wonder if the COVID owns the property next door, there could be a use easement or something put across to basically straighten out this line where it goes in and then back out. Here, maybe give you your 2 acres in order to do it. And once you develop the other property, you can take it as one cohesive development then. But you probably get your 2 acre requirement. When you come around that queue and you go pick up your coffee. Now, when they come out of that queue or coffee pickup area, are they going to be required to turn right onto Farmington Avenue, or are the cars going to go back down to the parking lot where cars are parked and maybe a little bit of conflict, cars backing out or?
Either way, at that point, it's your choice whether you want to go back out on Farmington Avenue, head back towards Stop and Shop, go up to the light, or you can take a left, go to the lot and go out on Farmington.
Yes, it's just the conflict going down through the parking lot now with the more parking spaces and they're required to change the zone. There might be a conflict there coming back down, so all the cars will be going down through the parking lot to Porter's pad. I suggest that it turns right and they can go left or right out of the parking lot then Farmington Avenue. Yeah.
All right, Andra, Ms. Miller.
I have a couple of questions and concerns. One, the sconces that you're gonna put in the back, are they gonna interfere or be too bright for the neighbors that are on that side of Porter's path?
Absolutely not. They're simply accent lighting. They're meant to illuminate the wall of the building, shining up and down onto the clapboarding. So you're getting shadow lines. And so the building looks like it's open.
Okay,
If the building doesn't have any light on it, you can't really tell that it's open for business. And it's not inviting.
okay. My other question is, have you approached CVS to talk to them about this parking situation at all? Because CVS can, since the other one's closed, that's our main CVS in town now, so there's times it's packed in there just for CVS, so.
There is in the afternoon, almost every afternoon, they're very busy, and that's why we thought this worked very well, simply because Starbucks is really busy early in the morning.
Right, I know, I went by the one in Cromwell today, and there had to be at least 40 cars there. For some reason, Starbucks is very popular.
Oh, today was Red Cup Day.
Was it?
Red Cup Day, yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be a Red Cup Day.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry, can you make sure you lean into the microphone?
Will do.
Thank you.
So my concern is that going in and out of CVS now on busy days, getting out onto Farmington Avenue can be pretty hairy if somebody even lets you go. Add Red Cup Day in there and you get 40 more cars, even if it could be in the morning, because they go there all times of the day. I just have a concern about the traffic getting in and out of there and even going down the other way to exit out the back way. I think it should be just something to be concerned about. And my question was, have you talked with CVS about the parking situations? It seems like most of the people who are going to CVS are gonna have to park in the back now? Or is no, okay,
We think the same side lot in the same spaces adjacent to the front and the side of the store will be available for CVS customers at all times.
okay,
We don't see that lot going up unless it's Red Cup Day.
okay.
We don't see that lot filling up with Starbucks customers when CVS customers really need the lot. These spaces are really always available to CVS customers. It would be inconvenient for the Starbucks customers to use the spaces along the CVS sidewalk.
But there's nothing preventing them from doing that.
No, there isn't, but there's all these other spaces that are available to them. And their model has changed a lot. We've got 9 of these now, and the model for them is the drive-in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Rogan, and then I think I'm gonna go to the public on this.
Yeah, I just share the same concerns of mechanicals. I don't see them on the drawing. Where are those located?
There will be rooftop units just as there are today. There are 3 rooftop units up there now, and they're generally not visible in any direction. We think that the parapets we're adding, the additional height of those 3 areas around the building will further screen the rooftop equipment that will be up there.
Yeah,
But it's there will be 2 rooftop units for Starbucks and probably 1 rooftop unit for the 1600. So we're gonna end up with the same 3 units we have today.
so seeing as you're updating the building, I would see full screening of those mechanicals being appropriate. The other concern that I have is I agree with Commissioner Miller in that the sconces, it's just not something that we've typically done in the past with allowing upward lighting.
It's still dark sky compliant. It's not shining up into the air. It's shining up on the wall of the building. The point is to create a shadow line where the pieces of collaborating overlap. We use them regularly in communities that have very dark sky ordinances, so it's not an issue.
Okay. And then, looking at the building, I see you're gonna have some landscaping along the back of it in those brick areas, to kind of break up the building.
We do now, there were very large evergreens back there, which started coming over and they cut them down.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Are you gonna be replacing that to kind of, with some landscaping on the back in between the drive-through and the building itself?
At this point, we're not showing anything back there simply because anything substantive back there, probably architectural grass, flowers, that kind of thing. We want that drive-through lane to remain clear and not overgrown.
Understood. That brick though, that's the existing brick or is that gonna be some new?
That's the existing, brick material.
Okay, well, yeah, if you could consider maybe adding some landscaping or doing something, I mean, the front looks nice, the way you have that done, in my opinion. On the backside though, it's very bland. I think there's a little bit of room for improvement, just considering, I mean, even with the arborvitae's there, it's still a main corner of town.
Okay, this is public hearing, so I just want to make sure that if anyone here wants to comment regarding this application, now would be the time to share your thoughts, whether they're for or against the projects. But, you know, to take in your feedback or testimony, so. All right, comment,
Commissioner Veely,
yes.
can I share a concern when there's space for me to?
Well, actually, yes, you can share, Nikki could share if you have questions. Nikki, go ahead.
Not so much a question. I guess I'm just echoing the other commissioners with regards to the traffic. On a good day, everything runs smoothly and it still is kind of congested. But I mean, if you've ever been through Dunkin' Donuts on a Saturday and, you know, sometimes things happen and the orders don't come out that fast. And so things tend to back up. I'm just sort of concerned about traffic from the two coffee shops around the same time being very busy. And on top of the CVS and just having a lot of congestion in that parking area, but also along where Porter's Pass is on Farmington Avenue. Saturdays are extremely busy, and then as well, like was stated, like in the morning and then typically in the afternoon. I guess for me, it's just a concern with traffic congestion.
Okay, terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Edge.
Zipper Edge again, 240 Kensington Road. Actually, one of the things Economic Development was pleased with the traffic issue was the fact that the driveway is moving further away from the intersection. I know right now sometimes it gets a little challenging when you're trying to turn out, but having the driveway into the property being further up towards Old Brickyard, I think is a helpful piece. Because it does give you a little more time if people come around that corner, because people sometimes takes that left-hand turn. Quite a rip.
Yes.
Other pieces, and someone else in the fast food industry had mentioned to me during COVID, it got up between 70 to 75% of their businesses through the drive-through, which I think is really where Starbucks is headed to. So from the parking perspective, that's where the majority of the people are going to be going, from what I've been told anyway. So just to echo what they've been saying about drive-through, or being the way it is, one, due to COVID, but two, just being the busyness of people's lives. Actually, tonight was the first time I had seen the rendition. I'm very pleased. I know that it is essentially a big brick box, has been for many years. I'm glad that they've decided to break it up with both the different shapes as well as the awnings, because it does do a good job on breaking it up. The last thing too is I'm very pleased about this because 4,000 square feet is a really tough size to lease, which is the whole size of the building. Again, I have been here almost 8 years now, and since the paint store has been empty, there's very, very few retailers or tenants that have come through in that 4,000 square foot size. They just really don't exist. So I think this is a nice use. Yes, will it be a competitor to some of the folks in town? No question. I think it'll be good to enliven up more Farmington Avenue than against the things that already happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going back to the public to see if you have any comments about this before we go further. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I'd just like to ask Mr. LaPointe a question. Have you have any interest in the other building, or is anybody coming in there?
In one of
The 1600.
So these,
The second building, you have Starbucks and you have your other.
oh, no, he's, as far as I know,
Sorry.
as far as I know, there's no lease discussions for the 1,600 square feet now.
Thank you.
We think it will lease.
okay. I just have a couple quick questions or comments if I can. I was listening to Mr. Rogan talk about the mechanicals, and I guess your mechanicals are going to stay up on the roof, and that's probably a good thing. My concern is, My concern is the location of the squawk box or the order box. My concern goes to the volume. I find them, as convenient as they are, I find them highly annoying. I'm kind of one of the person who likes to go in and order my coffee only because I'm sorry, I just can't stand the noise and the volume of that. So my concern is that if you have this squawk box or order box, should I say, that seems to be located right near yeah, it seems to be right there. My concern is that if it takes so long to order the coffee, then how long do they have to wait to get the coffee? Because it seems like it's only 2 car lengths later and bang, you're right at the window. What will the volume be? Because I don't want to disturb people who might actually be sitting, enjoying their Starbucks coffee in the little park.
If I might, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars set back for the very reason that you mentioned, which is that allows the people inside to have that drink prepared by the time that car gets to the drive-through window. Starbucks has this down to pretty much of a science in terms of how long it takes from the point you order to the point you pick up. And so it is really at their direction, or its direction, that that order facility is placed far enough back so that there is time for when the person gets to the drive-through window, the beverage order is prepared. We are very much aware of the concern that commissions have with the drive-through facility and the fact that you have this order conversation that goes on. Starbucks has done a good job of containing its volume in terms of the interplay between the customer and the person inside. In addition to that, we positioned it, we think, well in terms of the arrangement because we are planting a pretty thick edge of our arborvitae, and what's immediately adjacent to us is the park.
Yeah.
We're not intruding into a residential backyard. Someone doesn't live right on the other side of our property. And then residences that are on the other side of Porter's Pass have the additional screening, if you will, of the traffic that passes in front of the property on Porter's Pass and also on Farmington Avenue. We think that it's actually the best location for this opportunity that is required for drive-throughs. There's no other way to facilitate a drive-through drive-through facility like this for Starbucks. People have to be able to order far enough back so that by the time they arrive at the window, their beverages are available. And so we think we've got the right spot.
Okay, but if there are complaints or whatever regarding that volume,
Then we would certainly address that.
okay, it would be directly through that manager at that Starbucks, or does it have to go to?
Call that man right there.
Okay, all right.
The Starbucks ordering system.
No, microphone, just because we need to make minutes for the meeting, so.
The Starbucks ordering system has an automatic volume adjustment so that the volume of the speaker, the voice coming out of the speaker, is 5% louder than the ambient noise behind it. So if there's no noise, the decibel level is 39.
Yeah.
And the decibel level of the speaker is going to be 41.
Okay, but not everyone goes to one of those order boxes and just talks. They usually end up screaming at it. I want a medium size, you know. So you have no control over that, and I understand that. I'm just trying to prevent a situation from going south. Now, the other thing too, and Commissioner Rogan touched on this, is the back of the building. Now, when that was approved, I mean, that back of the building faces the Farmington Avenue Porter's Pass crossover. And so, it's always been sort of odd that the back of the building is what we saw in town and not the front of the building. So I applaud your attempt to spruce it up in the front, and I'm just hoping that, we can do something with the back of that building. Now, I know we talked about the arborvitaes. And when I think of putting 6-foot arborvitaes in there to help buffer the park, I also think about, security issues or whatever in that drive-through. So I know you're gonna have security cameras that are gonna track all of that. But I just would like to see if we could do something with the back of the building. What you've done with the Hardy plank, I like, but we need to somehow, it's missing a layer of something. And I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if it's just awnings or the perception of windows as opposed to brick. I'm not quite sure, but it just needs something.
And I neglected to mention, we have added awnings to the building, both on the storefront windows.
Oh, the microphone, sorry.
We've added awnings at the storefront windows, an awning at the drive-through. And we've added awnings on the back of the building where we are proposing to install 2, this would be brand new, but 2 new doors, which would be the back doors to the 2 tenant spaces. And we would put an awning over each one of those doors. Right now, there's only 1 back door on that building, and that was the rear exit for Blockbuster.
Looking at the design of it, you have the faux front, you have that extension that rises
Right.
above the roof line. What's happening in the back of that building? Am I just looking at the blank side of
Well,
that faux?
over the arborvitae, you're gonna see this hardy plant all across the back of the building. So you'd be looking through the park, you'd have to look over the arborvitae, and that's pretty much what you'd see. That's the
Okay.
top line of the,
But the top, the 2 little towers that are extending at the paraffin that you raised to the front,
right,
yes. When you're looking at the back of the building, that's the back of the paraffin, but it's not finished the way the front of your building is finished. Is that correct?
that's correct.
I wonder what it would look like if it was finished to mock that front.
I don't, but we can certainly draw it that way. I've never done it.
In other words, to continue that pattern that you have on the front, we'll put it to the back. Bart, I see you raising yes.
Yeah, basically, you're talking about taking this front feature and just duplicating it on the back side, so it looks like
Yeah,
you're looking at the front of the building.
so that what you have is the front of the building to import as many of those characteristics to the back.
That's gonna be fine, and that's. They can mimic that feature.
That's, it's still,
Yeah, very good.
And you see how you have that, the pillar almost looking, that runs up on either side of the doors, that runs up.
yes.
You probably extend that or somehow working into the back, because you have the 3, it looks like 3 garage doors. Yeah, and so I'm trying to make it look like something other than a garage door and more, something more attractive. And something that, I know you're gonna have the Starbucks logo in the corner, okay? But just something that's going to improve the back of that building, because that's what the people are going to see. And I think it's important to you to do that.
Well, these columns could be carried up to the top of the hardy plank, which this is the parapet of the existing building. And these could certainly be finished so that they look like this.
Yeah. And I think Bart has a pretty good idea of where I'm going with it, so I think he could probably, or Mr. Bovee, excuse me, can probably help you with that. But it would put a more, a more finished look onto that building and get it away from the garage door. Okay.
He had a birthday, he must get a little older, Mark.
No.
So you gotta say sir.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, but those are just my initial comments coming out of the gate. All right,
I did want to make one responsive comment with respect to the traffic. We do have the report from FA Hesketh indicating that there are no safety or operational issues. The police department did review that report, had no comments, and had no comments in general. And beyond that, if we're fortunate enough to have this approved by this commission, we are still going to the DOT for approval because of the Farmington Avenue being a state highway. So I think there's been a lot of oversight on the traffic by people who are experts. I certainly don't consider myself an expert at anything, especially traffic, but I did want to point out that we've had everybody that we can so far review this without expressing any concerns.
If I could just point out one thing, being a somewhat local resident and going to CVS is quite heavy. I am up at CVS. The traffic engineer stated that the traffic generated from the site is basically coming off existing roads and we're not generating much of traffic. I think what you're gonna find is people gonna go to CVS, do the shopping, park, walk across, get coffee. And you're not gonna see people purposely driving to CVS so much or Starbucks so much as they will, but I think you're gonna find that type of business atmosphere in town. And I think that's what's exciting about this. It's gonna generate a little more excitement in town. You're just not gonna have one destination. You're gonna go to those, right? You're gonna have a couple of businesses you can visit and utilize. So, and the other thing from a local traffic standpoint, we talked about Farmington Avenue. I know locally, when I pull in, I always look at the Farmington Avenue situation. If I know it's gonna be bad, I immediately go to Forest House. I don't go to Farmington Avenue and stare and wait and it's like turn. I make that decision, physically when I walk out of the store and see the traffic. And I think that's what being a local store and local people using this, 90% of people, I think are local. We use both facilities. They're gonna make that decision when it's busy, they're gonna go out to Forest House.
We just have one piece of information that I think is relevant.
Yes, in response to concerns with drive-through queuing, I did want to mention that our office had conducted recently 2 studies at existing Starbucks facilities located in Hadley and Ludlow, Massachusetts during April of 2022. And those studies indicated a maximum required storage area of 12 vehicles, which we surpassed. And we found an average service times of 59 seconds and 61 seconds observed, indicating that the window can accommodate a total of 60 vehicles an hour. Maximum queues of 10 vehicles and 12 vehicles were observed, with average queues of 4 and 5 vehicles. Both these studies were conducted during the morning commuter peak hours at existing Starbucks facilities. So they do have doubts with times.
all right. Yeah, okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. So,
Yeah, I think a couple of revisions are in order that I would like to see, so I'll make the motion to, or.
staff
Staff.
comments, I'm sorry.
Put the cart before
I
the horse.
like to get my 2 cents in. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. So I just want to point out a couple of things. The engineering comments are pending. Our engineer was out sick today, so I didn't get to follow up with him with regard to they're in an inbox somewhere or not. Again, I reiterate, DOT would have to have purview over the review of the plan regardless. And planning staff is continuing to review the details. I was going to note that it sounded as though you were asking for a couple of details and revisions. So those could be incorporated if you keep the hearing open. I do, support the deferral of excess parking. It's written on a number of plans where it's deferred as long as they have the space, set aside on their site plan, and if parking becomes an issue, the DEO can make the call that says that they have to add parking. And, you know, keeping some land green if it's not necessary to make paved is something we strive for. You addressed architectural issues, so that was one of my questions, but I do want to point out that the signs that they're representing on their drawings do not seem to be compliant with the regulations. We allow for one wall sign on buildings in the CCD and per use on buildings in the CCD 1 and 2 zones, so that will require modifications, but regardless, you usually include the caveat or the condition that signs require permitting, which includes the zoning review. And I wanted to point out that with regard to the discussion on the speaker, that the regulation section 6I3E for drive-throughs says it can't be heard on residential properties, so that would be, the regulation covers some of the volume issues. If we get complaints, then it would become a zoning issue. And for the record, we have a zoning enforcement officer started on Monday.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, my God. Thank goodness.
Would that be?
We're all happy.
So now I will make a motion to continue to, thinking the next meeting, which would be the first. Yeah, I'll make a motion to put you in the first.
Before you act on that motion, could you just be very clear on what you're looking for from us so we can be responsive for the first? I got the architectural issues, particularly on the rear of the building.
Yes, and then our staff's concerns.
Is there anything else that commission is looking for?
I would like to add, if there's any concerns from the neighbors for that sconces, that they be addressed. Thank you.
I would just note, I tried to keep pretty good notes as comments were made. The landscaping was another item. And I'm glad to meet with you perhaps early next week, and we'll look at my yellow legal pad notes, see what else was mentioned. The 2 pages of notes I took.
Very good. We're happy to do that.
Okay. So we have still have the motion, okay, yeah. Now we can get the further discussion on that. So all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, so that, we'll see you again on the 1st
Thank you
December.
for your time.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. I keep forgetting to tell people that, so we make. Okay, so now we just come back, we're gonna circle on back to the Thomas Hope Brothers,
So we did get a text back. So we got a report earlier this week that the yellow public hearing sign was down on the property. And we notified him, he responded to the text that was sent to him that he understood that that was going to force postpone the hearing.
Okay,
So in granting postponing, I believe Commissioner Jersey noted that the hearing was open, so you have 35 days to close it from the time you open it. So I would say no extension of time would be necessary.
so where's that motion?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be appropriate, and if as long as that's acceptable to the commission. Like I said, we've been in constant conversation because of different issues, including
okay, so,
he put the sign back up, I got a photograph of the sign photograph.
all right, so those people who were here, okay, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead with the motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for re-subdivision of Town Kokomo Brothers.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? December 1st, I guess, right? And all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. All right, so we'll do that. Okay, old business, we have the special permit site plan application for Little Houses LLC for plan residential infill development and related site improvements at 1676 Berlin Turnpike, MBL 22-114-10 in the ET1 zone. Public hearing open on September 1st, October 6th, October 30th, November 3rd, and here we are back again. Now, in all fairness, I did not believe that I was going to be at this meeting tonight. So I had pretty much concluded that we weren't going to be discussing that because I did not foresee that I was going to be here. However, I am here. It's the pleasure of the commission. I'm sorry, if you're just joining us, please mute if you're on Zoom, so we don't have feedback. Thank you very much. All right, so it's a pleasure of the commission.
We already,
What?
with that, nothing will be heard tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, I just wanted to make sure that we're all okay on that. So you're saying to extend this to December 1st?
December
What you're
1st, yeah.
saying? Okay, December 1st. And let me. Little house. We're talking about Little House.
So for clarity, the public hearing has been closed at the last meeting. And from that date, which is 11/3/2022, you have 65 days to decide.
Okay, all right, so you're pulling back your motion. Okay, all right, because there was some confusion there. All right, so we have the option to start deliberations tonight. Or we can go ahead and put it off until the 1st of December, as I said. And I'll take blame for that only because I was the one who pretty much thought that I was not going to be here. And the reason is I had house guests.
Can I just
Yeah, go ahead.
record that I did get clarification in your packet with regard to the drainage from the town engineer for the snow shelf. And you were provided the plans, 4 different plans for each meeting, just to bring it all kind of. You have them all, that was in order labeled for you.
I think I would prefer that we do deliberate, instead of postponing.
Okay, well, all right, everybody, yeah, again, because I pretty much had made it clear that I wasn't going to be here, and yet here I have materialized. All right, but if it's the pleasure of the commission, and that's the vote, then we'll go ahead and we'll deliberate, okay? All right, so we have this plan in front of us, and I know that we've had discussion, we've taken testimony from the neighbors who are impacted by this development, but also we're trying to operate within the regulations. But as I look at this, I also have to remind the commission that this is not only just a site plan, but it is a special permit, which means it's held to a higher caliber than a normal development would be. So we have other considerations to take, a different level, a different layer of considerations that we are able to apply to this. And they have to satisfy the commission at that point. So who would like to start in?
I don't mind starting.
Okay, Mr. Rogan.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the project came a long way from what we originally looked at. But as far as I see it, when we originally considered this text amendment, you know, it was really almost we were talking about this type of development. I was thinking like HGTV, you know, tiny home where you have like a single wide, you know, really done up unit. Wasn't 2 stories, it was very low impact on the surrounding communities. So when I see this now, doesn't remind me of tiny houses. And from the testimony that we heard from both the a residential abutting and the commercial abutting, it does have, they're considering it a direct negative impact on their properties. And I think the way we wrote that, yes, a lot of the numbers check out, but the narrative of this was to be having something that fits in with the character and that the neighbors are happy to have there. We're happy to see the motel's gone. And like I said, I think we came a long way, and that's why in the last public hearing, I asked, is this the final revision? Because I feel like the revision between one before this and the final one, when building got split up and moved around, but what we were asking really was not addressed. We lost the community center, which I thought really added to like the mental, the welfare and the health of the project for the residents itself. Granted, I wanted a gazebo instead, but we lost that, and now we got another house, which I think is, I think that has a negative effect on the quality of life for the people who are going to live in there themselves. It's just, I think, like we said, we're asking for about a reduction in maybe 3 to 4 more units, and the best he said he could have possibly do, even if we kept it open with 1. So that's why, like, I think we got close. I think if we had taken, like you said, these 3 units that I put at the residential, if they were taken down and turned into 1-story residential, and minimized a bit, got rid of a couple more, you could have some more open space that would have given it a better, environment and the feels with it. Again, it's not only for the people who surround it, but I think it's just very clustered for the people who live in it. And I think more could have been done to really just get the project to where it needed to be. So my 2 cents on it is that I think we came close, but I don't think the application got to where it needed to be.
All right.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Now, Mr. Zigma.
Yes, as I spoke in last meeting, the concept that we need a decision. Yes, speak to Commissioner. One room home, but I did rush to the meeting to move little home and see what comes up. The little homes were 800 to 1,000 square foot, little homes, good for a married couple, starting out, or elderly couple who sold a big house when I'm downsized to a smaller home. And the concept that was there with these little homes has been disappeared. Now, I was told at the meeting that duplexes are okay. I don't think that was the concept for us, or I don't think that the duplexes should be part of this plan. The original concept again was when we came out with small little homes, and if the motel units had 12 units, this had 10 plus office and something else, so probably 12 units. That there was, when the calculations came up, there was a bonus of a couple units, so maybe 14 units, not 20. And the houses, they said they couldn't get them far away from the back line and stuff. These houses that I saw, if I typed in little houses, they were only 30 foot deep houses, maybe 35 foot wide. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, kitchen, units. And that's the concept that I really thought was going to be this rule out of the first plan to this, which I think grew one way. It's the wrong way, you know, it's again, family, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, I two family.
Yeah.
You know, not what we perceive. We're looking at the developers, their monies and stuff like that, which the concern is, commission, but I personally think that they, with the single family small houses, they could do the same thing in monies. That's just my own thing.
Yeah.
But, like I said, this is not conducive to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, on the road side.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zigma. Let me just pop in for Steve Biella, because I know that normally I go to you last, but Steve, do you have? Steve, do you have any, but,
Well, I'm all set right now, thank you.
okay, so no comment, okay. All right, and Nikki, Nikki, if you're still with us, is there any comment that you'd like to share?
I'm here. I've been
Okay.
following along. I guess for me, the space, and I'm echoing the other commissioners, the space is quite an issue for me. It just feels like a lot of units packed into a really tight space. And then, you know, when I was reading the paperwork that we were given in our packet, I guess I'm kind of concerned as well about the snow stockpile. They had mentioned like one of the yard drains at the southwest corner of Unit 14. I guess my only concern is what happens if we have a really bad winter and that yard drain becomes overwhelmed.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of concerned with the drainage there as well. But basically, I kind of echo the sentiments of the other commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rogan, I see you want.
Yeah, and I was just reading our paragraph here from Mike Ernie. He was talking about if we didn't want this runoff to go towards 48 Holly Court, we could set a condition that would instead turn it southeast of Unit 13, which would put the runoff directly into the storage of the commercial lot next door, which is downhill. So I find that to be a concern as well.
I love to clarify that comment. So there's a drainage swale there with a pipe in that area behind there. That's what it's, so I stood at the counter while he was explaining it, that the swale is between this property and the property to the south with a drainage line that goes through there. The pipe, a swale and a pipe. So that's, he was noting to direct it towards that. I just want to
Where
clarify
does it dump?
that.
Where does that spill dump?
So that would be all part of the drainage design that you saw, so I don't really want to add detail. That would have been part of the hearing, but I wanted to clarify his comment.
It's the details of, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Daly.
I came in a little bit later into the program, so this started before I joined the commission, and I appreciate all the things that I've heard. I just wanted to add some positives with the application that they worked toward trying to respond to some of the comments were made by the community and to the commission. They went to duplexes because they needed to come back off of the line to give more space. As I drove around town, it seems like they're awfully close together, and I am concerned with how packed they are, as much as they have adjusted and tried to respond to some of our concerns. I just haven't seen any other neighborhoods that are that close or that tall. I know one of the concerns that was raised by the community that lives behind is that you'd see these tall houses behind looking down, but I think you kind of would see that in any area that climbs a hill or climbs a mountain, you know, the things behind you, you will see no matter what. So I guess I wasn't so concerned about that as much, because they also responded with an 8-foot fence versus a 6-foot fence as a request of the neighbors, but it's just gonna be so tall and so crowded. I am concerned.
Was Miller, anything?
He's been said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just like to put a couple of thoughts out there as well, and it's pretty much echoing what a lot of the commissioners thought. I think when we tried to look at this text amendment, thought we were doing something very constructive, very solid, and very forward moving. It's like with any plan that we have in front of us, we use our imaginations and we believe it's going to be one thing. But the reality comes home when the project is ready to be built. And you suddenly realize as you sit up here that it has impacts not only on the commission, but the town and the community. And one thing that we always turn to, I think, is our plan of conservation and development, which sort of serves as a background to the regulations. It's sort of a, if you're part of the expression of Bible, as to how the commission operates and how the commission has an overview of how the town is and what it should be. And so it helps guide us in these special permit uses to see, you know, how's the best way to move forward without making a detrimental impact or making a neighborhood pay for one action of commission. So we're constantly trying to balance things out. I think the idea that we started with when we did the text amendment was a very forward-thinking idea. But the reality is, as I look at the plan before us, I know that we have tried to work with the developer and we've tried to hit on certain things. But I think the stone wall that we came up against was the number of units in the property. Because when it was once a little hotel, it was 8 or 9 units in a caregiver's house, and now it's exploded to be 18 or 19 units in duplexes, and it doesn't seem to provide much sense of a community or wanting to stay on, or perhaps encouraging people to use it as a stepping stone and go on to buy a home and take pride in home ownership. So it sort of fell short of the mark. That is just my overall impression of it and the plan, and it doesn't seem that we're going to be able to come to any sort of agreement with it. All right, so that being said, I think we all sort of viewed our opinions.
I make a motion to deny the application is not in our vision the way it is proposed. And I don't think it goes with our design review or our conservation.
Yeah, plan of conservation.
Plan of conservation. You know, it's the overall plan is not what we envisioned. And I've got to compliment the developer for keep on moving and everything else, moving it, but he expanded it to his needs.
Yeah.
And I think it's still going to be a viable project down the road with single family little homes.
Well, yeah.
That's what he proposed, the name of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
All right, so we have the motion to deny, and do we have a second?
Yeah, I will mimic, and I just think going back to all our comments that we just heard in this, how it impacts the neighbors and like we we're talking about just how tight packed it is and the quality of life of people who live there, I'll agree with Mr. Zigma and second that motion.
Okay,
I'll take your comments with my motion.
okay, terrific. I think we have enough.
Just reminding that any motion, one way or the other, needs, collected reasoning. Substantiation in those reasonings, a lot was said in the hearing, it's not, or during your deliberation, that's not in motion.
Oh, as far as,
Reasons for.
Reasons that I've come in. So, what if you read the amendment that we made, most of the amendment calls for single family small home. And that's what the vision of it was, to go to that. And conservation and development.
quality of life.
Quality of life.
Yeah, my reasons reading for that would be not only, I think when we lost like the community center and. You know, back to that, yeah, quality of
Yeah,
life.
even just the whole center aisle just keeps, became a duplex, a single family.
That all comes down to number of units
Yeah,
and what you, recreation or whatever you can do in development, to improve the development. Yes.
So yeah, the reasoning would be the quality of life with the lack of open space, how cramped the buildings are. And as well as the narrative being in the thing is that it's not supposed to have a negative impact on the neighboring community.
yeah.
And you had a lot of testimony that everyone was in agreement, it's gonna have a negative impact. And not only on the residential, but on the commercial next door.
Yeah.
And when you have industrial showing up to complain, which is extremely rare.
Yeah,
I think that says a lot.
yeah,
So I think that's
yeah,
a
and
negative impact, is a big reason.
not only that, but I think we had folks that came out from, other neighborhoods, Peter Parley Road, there was, I believe, some folks that addressed the commission regarding their concerns. But
Yeah, I will,
again, I think.
I will again accept the comments that you just made, into the motion. And if you accept it.
Okay, terrific. So we have the motion, we have the second, further discussion. And we do a roll call. Should we do a roll call on this, or can I just vote for the call?
I think it's, important to do a roll call.
All right. So the motion is to deny, so,
Get there, wait a minute, okay. Commissioner Bailey.
Daily or Veely?
Daily.
Okay.
Sorry.
I looked, I was like, what?
You're going in the wrong one.
All right.
Deny. Commissioner Millard. 9. Commissioner Dorsey.
Deny.
Commissioner Zigma.
Deny.
Commissioner Rogan.
Deny.
Chairman Bailey.
Deny.
And, Commissioner Vayella.
Deny.
All right, there we go. Thank you. All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
you. I know the room will clear.
Okay.
All right.
And to everybody else in the room who were, I can see this, you guys were here for the quad dome. I'm sorry if you didn't get it at the beginning of the meeting. That was tabled from the original time when it was coming the 1st of September, not till Thanksgiving.
All right, so you're get to come back on the 1st of December, right?
But we enjoyed your comment.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, so no testimony was gonna be heard. Then, yeah, okay. But happy Thanksgiving.
Was there a meeting on the 3rd? I see that they were listed on that meeting agenda on November 3rd.
There was no testimony. There was no test.
For a previous meeting.
No,
Skipped over.
We missed them.
no.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So, they come back on it's the 1st of December?
Yes, it was continued at that meeting or a previous meeting, I'm not sure exactly which one.
Yeah.
It was continued to December, and that's why we posted it with no testimony.
Because they, they were gonna be working on something, or they were supposed to come back to us with information.
Comment.
And they needed more time, so that's why we had to put them on today's agenda, so we can move them off to the next one. But I apologize, I hope it was okay for you to sit here, and we thank you for your company, and hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
You too, thank you.
All right.
We could be a little entertained.
Okay, so we're gonna chat to the agenda for the.
On the town's website, and it's also, it should be hanging outside the door as well, but we post it on the website.
The town, yeah, but the town to come out and maybe like,
It's the week of the meeting, it's in running the week of the meeting that it gets out, or call our office.
Yeah.
And we can assist for everything we know at that time.
thank you very much. Yes, you do. All right, where are we? Okay, so on to the old business continued. The 354, that is, that's December. All right, and then special permit for quantum, that's December 1st. And then Grand Acres is December. Okay, so we're a special permit site amendment for Sudakar.
Thank you.
Nagadeo Likar.
Absolutely perfect.
Okay, thank you. Interior renovation of the existing occupied space for the food facility, no exterior renovation, Berlin Turnpike. Okay, questions, comments, or what's the pleasure of the commission?
I'll make a motion, because I like this one, I think I'll do well. I know we won't have to go far for vegetables or food, but I think there's an Indian grocery store right next door, so.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve with staff comment and with the approval of the other department comments.
Okay, we have the motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Steve, not fast enough, Miss Jorsey has that one. Further discussion? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Special permit site for Peter Point. And this is going to be, this is open, open is open. First year summer, right?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we're continuing. So that's that. And then, commission business, the only thing that I have is, I did get a note from Kate Wall asking me for the calendar, so I'm sure Fran's gonna.
We're already working on that, but you have more meetings December, so.
We're okay.
CPA's first.
All
We
right.
only meet in November, then I meet
I
in
know.
December.
I just want
But we started working on them.
major holidays.
The correction to the calendar, so the last couple of years, we have
Well, I think,
not done what you used to, the second and fourth week of the month. Now, a couple of years ago, started meeting the first and the third Thursdays of the month. And we eliminated the first meeting in
Thank you very much.
January due to the, being, having to get ready for it over the holiday and everything. And then we do monitor the other activities, including the Berlin Fair, and which is usually the third weekend or that weekend following the Thursday, so we also have eliminated that from our
Good night, God bless.
proposed calendar most years.
happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, you as well.
All last this year's.
Oh, yeah, similar.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, with the 2 in January, the 2. Yeah, the 1 in September. Unless we can get 2 in September. I sometimes, I don't know if it's easier to add a meeting or is it easier to cancel a meeting?
I mean, I think it's pretty easy either way, we just have it once a night, no problem.
Yeah, but this is way out. I mean, usually if we get off stuff.
My experience is the expectation of applicants who are put on the notice and the interested parties participating, that they expect to be on it, so canceling a meeting that you've already scheduled someone for, can be, touchy. At the same time, adding a meeting, it may provide the opportunity for you to, like you noted, clear some items. We're gonna be working on trying to define the scheduling even further as far as, like you mentioned this past fall, the need for, if the hearing's open and they're gonna be responsive and make changes, they really can't do it within one cycle. It really is 2 meetings out that we probably will get if they have to do any substantial design changes or, drainage and things like that. Engineering work, I should say. It may be 2 meetings before they're on, and we're gonna try to work with the applicants a little more to make those recommendations realistic. Instead of getting there and, oh, well, we just got the comment yesterday, well, we just got the revised sheets 3 days ago, and, so. We'll work on that, and hopefully that'll make things smooth.
You can look at the second and fourth Thursdays, see if it's less conflict with the holidays. Because it may be, just thinking about what holidays are, it may be a little less conflict with the holidays, because you could do January second week, right? So wherever we can get the most 2 weeks in a year, 2 weeks in a month, is probably where we should go.
Well, I think if you just plan upon hitting two meetings a month, and then if you find yourself with an Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving, you just work about it. And if we have to do back-to-back meetings Thursday, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, we can.
So when the meetings were the second and fourth, the commission frequently they only had one November meeting.
Yeah,
And one December meeting.
Yeah.
So you kind of migrated that to the last few years have been one September meeting and one January meeting. I'm thinking perhaps changing that January meeting to maybe the 3rd week instead.
Yeah.
Or the second week instead, so it's not quite the big long distance from the this December meeting, not quite so far to the 3rd week. I mean, it's still the same number of weeks, it's perception.
yeah.
If you have one meeting
Yeah,
a month, whether it's, from the 4th to the 4th, or it's from the 3rd to the 3rd, it's still the same number of weeks in each.
Yeah.
Right, with perception.
All right.
It's a good question. That new,
Well, we're still in.
we're in commission business,
Okay,
question.
yeah.
So that new, equipment company where commercial installation, since the Kokomo piece, probably wrong term, but.
They're supposed to be coming in with an amendment. Site plan amendment.
Okay, then first of all, they're way in the second lot, way back now,
Been notified.
Okay. and,
Not, complying with the site plan.
and. The signs, did they get permits for those signs? Because there's a pole sign, a building sign, and a building sign.
There's 2 different buildings, so
Two
they were
different
allowed.
buildings, but there's a pole sign on.
And the full sign, they're allowed a freestanding sign as well as.
I just see all these.
Then I'll go by and look again, or what?
Yeah, I
Put
just
it on the
saw the
list
sign.
to look again, but they did get sign permits. I'll make sure what was put up complies with the sign.
I have one quick question, and this just has to do with the legislation. Now that it's about to be a new year coming up, we have to get all those hours in.
What?
How are we supposed to do that? As like,
We'll be working to try to direct the commission members to opportunities for continuing ed, professional development, continuing ed.
we need what, 4 credits or 4
I'm not sure how many hours it is.
per year?
They're being, several of the organizations are looking, it's all the towns need to do it, all the commission, the commissions in every town need to do it, so there are several of the organizations, like Yukon Clear, the zoning officers, the planners association, our association, they're all trying to look at how they can put together some development classes. We can reach out to the organization that, the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies, you get that newsletter, actually, I think it's in your packet this week. That he also has an offering to go to towns, to do a, training session as well. So, some we might have to, group with another adjacent town or something else, make it more practical. But, and Jennifer, I have had several conversations with regard to it. We just need to figure out how to get it done in what week we can.
Yeah. They don't consider.
It might be helpful to do recorded Zoom meetings so that if somebody misses meeting, they can go and watch the recording.
I'm sure there have been, I don't know as far as training for commission members, but we frequently do that as well.
All right, okay, now I'm gonna cross into dangerous territory here, so. I think in light of this application regarding the refurbishment of these little houses, hotels or whatever.
Jennifer.
I heard when you made that initial statement, Joan, I thought maybe I should show my face.
Okay, all right, well, that's
So if the amendments are on my list of anticipated for getting to the regional agency so that we can put them on the December 15th meeting.
I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm wondering if we made a mistake with this thing. Not the application, but the amendment. We rewrote this amendment thinking we were gonna help these little hotels. And I think, I don't know, if I thought about different ways that we could improve it. Both for the residents and for the town and POCD to get it to work together. But I'm honestly thinking that maybe we were a little ambitious in what we anticipated this to be, and it's really fallen short. And I'm wondering if maybe we should just go back to the regulation the way it was before we allowed for these little hotels to become these little communities, because they're not working out. I don't see that they will work out. This has been a bad experience in this application. And I think it's
Their vision isn't our vision.
well, exactly, and we're not getting what the town needs out of it. And I don't think that we're doing any justice. I don't think we're doing any good out of it.
I think the vision that we had for the original vision that we had was a good concept. And there was room to do the small houses and stuff like that in the development. But you're talking 20 units now instead of 12 or 14 units in that.
Or even 10.
Or 10, right?
Well, we're not
I
even
mean,
talking
but
about
that's
that.
just,
Wait, well,
that's
now-
just
We're
change.
just talking
Yeah.
about
It's amendment of the amendment.
Yeah,
Change it to what our vision was.
well, maybe we just need to go back to what it was before, when we
We
messed
just-
with it.
I have a slight concern with regard to the discussion. Because you haven't noticed this as a discussion, yet you have noticed or rather, you have commented that you want to get the discussion and the a new text amendment onto the agenda, so I want to make sure we stay within our parameters, perhaps. I don't know that I can give you all the parameters, because you've got to obviously give us some direction, some direction as to where you want me to go with an amendment and noticing it and letting the regional agency know at the same time what the content is. At the same time, you can't go too deep, because if you go too deep, then it's a discussion that needs to have the ability for the public to be involved, or at least hear it. Well, they can't hear it, this is recorded and this will be posted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so do we want then to add to the agenda the discussion of getting getting a discussion going on starting.
Amending.
Yeah,
amending the amendments.
yeah. We'll do that.
Whatever, whichever way it ends.
Not the cleanest way to do it.
Ugly, but the right way.
So we don't add it onto this agenda. No.
We're done.
It's just that when we do have this, we'll just open it all up. I guess, right?
Well, we can put on the agenda so that it's on the agenda, that you're going to have a discussion for direction regarding a text amendment
Yeah.
for staff to pull together.
And Jennifer's not screaming, so I imagine Attorney Coppola, it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, put it on an agenda, and then that way anybody who's interested in hearing, the discussion, they know to either attend or, watch the recording of the meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, well, that was to my point.
You really didn't have to black out your face all whole meeting.
Yeah, she
Well, I
Your hair is nice.
I was in another 7 o'clock meeting I had to attend, so, yeah, I went from in my car to picking up. So I heard quite a bit of your meeting, but not the very beginning.
Thank you. All right, so I think that's, anyone else have any comments, anything you've seen around town, anything you're hearing around town, you need to let me know, let us know.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 9:47 belongs to Commissioner Rogan. We have a second. I've got it here. Andrew Miller, that's the second. So further discussion, all those in favor?
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving to
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, bye, Donna.